And hypothetically, we're live. If YouTube wants to let me. Oh, it thinks we're live, which is nice. So, for those that don't know, I've been sitting here preaching any number of tactics and techniques and procedures and all kinds of things for quite some time. And there is one person that I know has been getting back to me on a very regular basis about how those things are going. And somewhere along the way, the idea came up that we should tell you guys how these things go in real life. Because if I tell you my experiences, everybody just goes, yeah, I'm sure Don just decided to, whatever, it's some friend of his or whatever. But no, really, these things do work. So, with that said, you may notice Pedro's little red book here, which is to say that, apparently I am Lenin to Pedro's Mal.
Yep.
There is another thing that is going on in chat right now, which is Pedro is a machine, and you know what? He doesn't tag you guys when he's recruiting. Pedro is a machine.
Yeah. Well, that's because y'all aren't on Twitter.
That's a fact. It does help to actually be where these things are happening. But anyhow,
I've literally been saying that for months.
Look, as much as I despise Twitter, and I do, it is actually really useful. So, at least
there's a lot of people
we're
there
doing. Yeah, right.
100
million is a decent group of people. So that said,
exactly.
There was, if I recall correctly, you have an order that you want to go through these things in. Is that correct?
It's not very, I don't think it's a very, it wasn't very organized order. I definitely have the notes for everything. So, which one do you want to go over first?
So, let's call it, media recruiting, I guess.
Yep. Certain medias that have something to do with avian creatures.
It could be. Now, it's relevant to say that...
Cannot confirm or deny, though.
Right. A good preface to this is that the terms of service of the internet suck. And so there's going to have to be a little bit of coded discussion here. Otherwise, we're all breaking lots and lots of terms of service. And so, abstractly, if there were some form of media that you could presumably talk to other people on, these things may be useful while doing that.
Yes. Okay.
So, all
right.
By all means, start them up.
Okay. So, vaguely speaking, when you're recruiting in any way, this cannot be used on people who are not right-wing at all. This specific part, cannot. It only works on right-wingers, and there are very different messages you can portray, let's just say, with this. So here's the one that there is where they are vaguely right-wing, and you have no idea of their other opinions, is you just go, excuse me, do you want someone who will stand up for my constitution? Check out this boyo. That's generally that is the least successful one, but it gets some people. One of the things I have found, for some specific reason, I have no idea why, mostly peaceful but fiery protests, let's just say across the country, have made this one very effective. Are you looking for someone who will stand up for law enforcement? Then I recommend Don the Pleb.
So, as much as I appreciate them all being tailored to me, because let's be honest, that's how we found out all these things work. In general, and I think it's important to note that in general these things work, right? So you're, let's devolve that into a real basic set of rules here, like targeted issue that is current, most likely that person is talking about, that is politically aligned with whichever side that you're going with.
Yeah, basically. It's either, basically, if you don't know anything other than they're generically conservative, say, my constitution, bruh, and they have a chance of going, oh, I want to check that out. And then if it's a place where there's a targeted issue, say, insert person here that you want to recruit for, cares about this issue, check them out. Or, the one that is incredibly effective is, do you hate insert leftist politician here? Are you sick of their nonsense? Well, check out Don, basically.
So I think it's important to pause there because the incredible effectiveness let's be honest, this is the emotional push idea, right? So you hate this thing. So what can we do to alleviate your hatred in this area? What can we do to make sure that, like, you're pissed off? We know that. Let's do what we can to stop you being pissed off. And this is, they're already emotional, so you don't need any particular effort to get them there because they're already doing it for you. And then what you're saying is like, hey, look, there's an answer to your emotional problem that is going on here.
Yes.
Fair enough. Carry on. What else we got here?
All right. So another one is specifically deliberately egging on left-wingers in order to attract right-wingers. And basically what you do is you say something inflammatory. Say, Biden's a pedo, Kamala Harris is a cop, post a Tulsi Gabbard meme, for instance.
Yeah.
Don't criticize Elon Musk with typos. You will get doxxed. But yeah, no, it's basically though, show pictures of Biden that people wouldn't like, and then they'll say, oh, but orange Drumpfler, and then right wingers will find it hypothetically, and then you advertise to the right wingers who were just baited in.
So I have to say, as someone who watches a lot of this happen, this is by far the most fun of these because at some point, pop into my notifications is, hey, have you considered that Biden's a pedo? And it's like him holding the crotch of a kid or any number of the creepy Biden memes, right? And oh my God, the rage.
Yep. It's amazing. Sometimes I don't even notice the rage because I don't get pinged by their replies.
That's funny.
So sometimes they get mad because they think I'm ignoring them.
Let them be mad. Because, by the way, this is another thing that is worth noting, right? If you post a meme under some leftist thing, and that meme is insulting to leftists, and your answer is 4,000 leftists being like, I hate you. You know what they're doing is nothing productive. That's what they're doing.
Yes.
Nothing productive at all.
Yep.
And so...
And I basically, and also, if you're doing this, make sure that any response you have only takes like 5 or 10 seconds.
Oh, yeah. Meme responses are particularly good. One, it drives the rage. And two, again, because it's in my notifications as well, boy, do you get some love from other people who are on the right? So if you post... the Biden's a pedo. And then under the Biden's a pedo, you get 4,000 people who are all down there like, and by the way, they act just like leftists do everywhere else. It's 9 paragraphs of crap, right? Like,
yep.
And then they tell you how their 9 paragraphs was a meme. And then at the end of that, there's a bunch of these threads where it's just like, lol, no.
Yep.
And then there's another 9 paragraphs of rage under lol, no.
Yep.
It is amazing.
Another one is they post things of Trump, and basically what you do is just ignore that and just keep posting things of Biden or other leftist politician. Like, that's the thing, is if you want to make them, hypothetically, they are very aggregated when you never address anything that they are saying. And just accuse them of being evil.
So there is somewhere or another in my notifications is definitely a thread that is like it worked exactly, I think it was under Biden, right? And like, it was
Yep.
just, hey, you touch kids or something like that. And then
Yep.
murderous rage. And then like, did you know Biden touches kids? And then more murderous rage. And it went on for like a couple of days.
Wait, really? I didn't notice they were still doing that.
Oh yeah, they were pissed. I ended up having to mute the friggin' thread because they just wouldn't stop. And then at some point they started arguing with each other, and like, I mean, it is amazing how much of a frenzy you can whip people up into with like. Have you considered that your candidate's a pedo? They just don't stop.
Amazing.
Speaking of that, by the way, the left are pedos. Uh-oh. That sounds like there's connection issue. So, while that works itself out, there we go.
You, Oh, what happened?
I don't know. You cut out for a minute.
Okay, where did I leave off?
So, right as I was saying, they lose their mind for multiple days. There was some sort of like ding sound, and then you were gone for a minute. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah. So, this is I guess one of the last ones ish. There's one after this, but basically you look for a very big lefty, and then you post something insulting, and then right wingers who, for some reason, really care about what this big lefty is saying, because they like to meme. Suddenly, they start noticing your post. And then either they go to you, or they want to find out more, or they follow. Either of which is better. Is great. Okay. Well, there is one. I think there's two more because I forgot one of them, which is specifically Comicsgate. I think you remember that one.
Yeah. Oh man. So this is going to be a little skill dependent. That's all I'm saying.
Basically, if you're an artist like me, you can do this.
Yes. Speaking of which, by the way, this Pedro drew this. So this is his art. So Craig, the nice artwork, you are talking to him. But also, thank you for the super chat.
Yep. Yeah. No, I did draw that. Yeah. What is it? I will say, if you guys do want art from me, it's gonna take a bit. That one took like a little over a day, and I was highly motivated to get that right out there. But yeah, yeah. So the one I did with the Comicsgate was I was doing a lot of just not very political anti-SJW posting, and little RG's stuff, posting fan art here and there, and then I decided to let's just say we weaponize degeneracy to own the libs.
So make no mistake, I am moderately skeptical of this, and yet it does seem to work.
Yeah. So basically, there is an RGE stream, Raging Golden Eagle. I think I linked it to you, Don, and it was the first 5 minutes.
I don't remember off the top of my head, but carry on.
Okay, yeah. So basically, he likes to, he tends to like, very skimpy stuff. So basically, you do the little degeneracy. So, just basically I just made a fan art of his character, like, with huge titties or whatever, doing something lewd. But then I also, inserted the little, drop of, conservatism, which is that, hey, these SJWs you hate, they're all communists.
I'm trying to see if I've still got it.
Yep.
Because I'm fairly certain I do.
Yep.
But
you want to post that one?
Yeah, I mean, I'll throw it up there. I don't mind.
Oh yeah, so you have the whole thing, or?
I think so.
I think I sent you the one that's the drop.
I don't know. Feel free to resend it, and then I'll toss it up there. So, but so as ridiculous as this sounds, and I know a lot of you are going to be like, really? So now we're just drawing degenerate stuff. So keep in mind that this is quite literally permeation for the right? Like, so very leftist owned area, right? Very leftist owned thing, degenerate nonsense. And then, like, have you thought that do more right wing things? Just a little bit in there, because let me tell you again, I was very skeptical of this while we were originally talking about it, and we definitely were talking about it while he was drawing it. And I was like, I don't know about
Yep.
doing degenerate shit. And he was like, I don't know, trust me, let's see how it goes. And so, sure enough, he pops it out there, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, F the commies anyway, and long live the anime titties. And I was like, you know, I should have known that it would work. It overtly is the thing that I said would work, but it's still, I don't know.
Sex sells. It always has.
It does, but this is a point that is worth pausing on as well, because numerous times I have said, look, there's going to be things that we're going to have to do that none of us like doing, right? It is going to leave.
I like doing that.
You know, it's going to leave a nasty taste in your mouth. You're not going to want to do it. However, if the end result is that all of the anime watchers of the world outside of Pole decide that they don't like commies anymore, it's better than it otherwise would have been.
Exactly.
So,
Jesus Christ.
I am not sucking dick to own the libs. I wouldn't suggest that if I was you.
No, I'm not recommending anyone do that.
So, the right should take over Pornhub. I mean, good luck. But, you know, if the reality of this is somehow that ends up happening, then, I mean, look, it would seem like if we actually took over Pornhub, then the end result would be there'd be basically no Pornhub. So,
Yep.
but regardless, you know, you got to start somewhere. And as much as, again, I can see it in chat, there are multiple levels on which I disapprove of this. Disavow. Yes. I get it, right? I do. And this is going to be another thing that is worth talking about, right? Not, so I say a lot of times, you know, very abstract things like do something, do anything, attack the left on every front, right? So 90% of you are probably not drawing giant anime titties that say, you know, kill the commies. That's probably not happening. And let's face it, I'm not doing that either, and not just because I can't draw, though because I can't draw, right? And so there is a relevance here that is, it is a battlefront. Whether we want to admit it or not, it's there. And whether or not the hopes and dreams are that one day it disappears off the face of the earth, for the moment, it's still a battlefront. And
yes,
unto itself, this is a lot of what there's going to be things that we don't want to do, and we've basically got to do them. Because, look, anime junkies are basically everywhere, and they like big giant anime titties. And
the left wants to take those away.
They have money, they vote, they own companies, they have jobs, right? So again, whether or not, and look, I have had a long-standing stance on Weebery, right?
Yep.
So, you know, make no mistake, you're preaching to the choir if you're like, God damn this Weebery crap. You know, but on the other hand, it's there, and it can be capitalized on, and it should be.
Yep. There was another thing I did, which got a stupid amount of likes. I think it was with, like, Uzaki-chan or some shit. Basically, a lot of the leftists online really hate a certain anime character or whatever because the something where her organs objectification of women's. And a bunch of the, you know, little weebs there are like, no, they're taking away her anime titties. So I, let's just say I exploited that. And that thing got like 800 likes. And then there was another post I made that got like 20 likes, and then I think I recruited like over 100 people or something.
Hey, I mean,
And it's
it works.
yeah, yeah. So
Anyway,
there's that one. Yeah.
was that it? Carry on.
But yeah, so on the lighter and I guess more savory note, there is big conservatives, and basically this last one is you make great takes that specifically have permeation, and one of them was with Red Eagle politics, where basically I one of my posts was basically the thing the right wing needs to understand is that when dealing with the left, this is not a conversation. This is a war, and they want to destroy you. And, not too long later, in the first 5 minutes, he mentions it on a stream.
And he did,
That
right?
this isn't a conversation, this is a war.
And
So,
so there is a relevant question in chat, which is this humble brag times? So
no.
I guess you could decide that it's
This
that
is
if you
just
want.
what...
This is quite literally like, look, these are tactics. Here's an implementation of them,
Yes.
and they work, right? So
Yeah.
if so, for those of you who don't know who what is it, Red Eagle Politics is. Yeah, I mean, he's what 40,000 subscriber YouTube channel,
Yep.
10 or 20,000
He
or
keeps
something like
growing.
that, right? I mean, he's decent size, and so the point here, so this is what force multiplication looks like, right? So if you can get someone bigger than me to go out and say, hey, no, we need to stop treating this like a conversation. We need to stop treating this like the left are just wrong, and we need to treat them like they're malicious people.
Yeah.
Then that idea is going to get out there at a substantially faster rate. And by the way, even if it's smaller people than me, but we don't share an audience, right? This is what force multiplication looks like. We are,
Yeah.
all things considered, still a relatively small channel around here. I love every one of you guys. Maybe not Alpha Man, but everybody else. And so, look, the reality of this is, no matter how great of an idea we generate around here, no matter how much we are attempting to put it into effect on our own, if we can get people bigger than us, if we can get the idea to be moving out there on its own without us manually pushing it, get it to pick up some steam on its own, have its own weight that we don't have to push, then we can move on to doing more things and better things, as it were. And so these are the kinds of things that, again, you're not going to be able to do every one of them. I'm not saying that this is something, every single word of this you need to write down and listen to back 57 times because it's the Bible of how to get things done. But it is quite literally, look, take tactic, put tactic into effect, here are results, right? And so
Yep.
one of the important things that I don't spend enough time on is like, no, these things do get results. I'm not just saying this. And so I always find when somebody tells you to do something and they said it worked for them is like, well, yeah, but who cares? It worked for you, whatever. And so, I mean, be as down on the premise of this stream as you want. But again, this is somebody who is listening to what is going on these streams and putting it into effect in real life and the results that they're getting from it.
Yep. Yeah, so now granted, with Red Eagle Politics, he didn't go on the full absolutist message where he did say that now not all of the left, but for most of the left. So it's still something.
So, hey, look, once again, move the needle, right? So,
Yeah.
if the reality of this situation is that we get somebody who yesterday thought it was a good idea to have a nice long conversation with the left to go, you know what, most of the left, we shouldn't do that.
Yeah.
Then that's already a giant leap.
Exactly. I think now on the humble brag stuff, most of it is just stuff I've done. Like, I have way more examples I'm not using, but I thought it was necessary at least to demonstrate it because, since most of y'all guys are not, on a certain site that is related to avian creatures, of which I will not specify, then you're not going to see most of these tactics. And as far as I'm really can know, like, Recruited Pterodax and Trugrave, and like a couple others are like the only people. So, there's that. So that's on the like the specific online, let's just say recruiting. So, who wants to get into the interpersonal?
Yeah. Let's move to it because look, this is a thing that in the world of interpersonal things, a lot of people have hit me up because I have a lot of interpersonal stuff in the world of like the tactics series and that sort of stuff, right? This is how you go find more people. And everybody wants to know how you convince a leftist. And generally my answer is you don't, right? And so I think probably the best place to start there because of that, so as not to bury the lead, is the Antifa member.
Yes. So I have a certain relative who thinks Antifa are good boys, and they're just fighting fascism. And so this is the type of stuff I was able to convince him on. There's about 19 things. So, 1. Red states are less intrusive on citizens than blue states. 2. Social Security makes the government interested in how many babies you're having. 3. The Supreme Court writes rules from the bench. 4. The main problem with police is unions, which come from bad incentives inherent to unions themselves. 5. Most Americans have money troubles due to financial illiteracy. 6. The teachers' unions ruin public schools. 7. The U.S. Federal Postal Service should be mostly abolished and left up to state governments. 8. City police chiefs should be an elected position. Later, I found out by Dawn you can't do that. So then I told my cousin that the way to legally get this done is to basically remove the city PD and move it into the sheriff's jurisdiction, and he was all for that. So I convinced him on that one. 9. The reason our politicians are so corrupt is because we are permissive of immoral behavior in society at large.
So
that's 9.
That right there is worth pausing on. How do you get a leftist to decide that immoral behavior is the problem with politics? Because that seems worth talking about.
Okay, so basically what I did is focus on basically moral frames that a leftist basically considers. So, for instance, it's very anti-capitalist, let's just say. So talk about, people like, abusing money and stuff and just, buying things they don't need. And then you go from there to like, there are things that are pretty awful and exploitative that, come off from this, like the erotic weight gainer who eats 10,000 calories a day, and these people are just getting off to this guy who's slowly killing himself. This is so horrible and exploitative. And then, maybe there's a problem if we think that a guy eating 10,000 calories of food a day is, socially acceptable. And then get into drug use. And then you're just like, and I wonder why the politicians are so corrupt. That's how it went.
I knew chat was going to start, so So the thing here is, somebody asked in chat, so pretend to care about what leftists care about. Yeah, I can't do that so well. I've tried. So it's not about whether or not you care, right? So you're making an argument to somebody else. So if I came to you and no matter who you are, and whatever it was that I was talking about was something that you absolutely did not care about, it doesn't matter what I have to say. The
Yep.
the well-being of commies. We should care about the well-being of commies. I don't think anybody is selling that on this channel. And so
No.
if I come to you and I give you the communists need to, I don't know, be well-fed and taken care of and what have you, a lot of you guys are going to be like, done. Seriously, no. What happened to the clown cannon? We want the clown cannon back, right? So don't think that you're pretending to care. This is sales. I don't know how else to say it. This is sales. If you go to someone who has 71 Hondas and you go, you want another Honda? Unless they're out shopping for you or something, for a new Honda or something, then probably not. If you go to somebody with no car and you say, hey, you want a car, and they have some capability of getting it, they're going to want to. So don't try and pretend like you care about what commies care about. Don't try and pretend that you care what the leftists that you know that you want to get a little bit of work in on, and hopefully get them to stop being quite so much leftist. Don't try and be that, right? The dishonesty of it comes across very easily. And dear YouTube viewership / comment section / chat, I know how you guys are. Anyone who even smells of dishonesty, chat lights on fire, and there's a 75-minute rager about how this person, whoever it is that I'm talking to, if you guys find them dishonest, this is the worst person on earth, he's a liar, it's slimy, this person's a snake. It's not new. It's exactly what you guys do every day. You know what their side of the conversation is going to feel like if you're over there trying to be dishonest. And it's not just my chat. This is the whole internet. If someone is up on a stream being dishonest and coming off as shady, every comment is, you're shady, you're a terrible person. So don't run over and sell this like this is the thing that is most important to you. Just have you considered looking at it in this fashion as opposed to, I think it's very important. And it's much... You are being honest insofar as you are attempting to give them perspective that they don't have, and you're not doing any of those things that none of you want to do.
Oh yeah, by the way, what if I told you guys that my little Antifa cousin is easier to move than my neocon dad?
Believable.
Yeah.
So
I haven't gotten to number 10.
a bit of that though on the subject of particular people is that Antifa doesn't. It's a movement of action things, not a movement of thought. And so if you can manage to worm in a thought, and keep in mind, by the way, that one of the reasons this is effective is because there's an established relationship. In my time, I have noticed that leftists who have an established relationship with you are willing to hear you out, even if they don't like what you're saying, as long as you're not going particularly hard. If you show up and go, Antifa are a bunch of commies, and what we should do is take commies and throw them out of helicopters, you're not going to get results for probably obvious reasons. But if you're going to them and saying, hey, this is a thing that you should probably know, you can usually get some traction with that. And so the difference there between Antifa and the neocons is the neocons like to think they're smart. They like to think they have all figured this out. They like to think they have very long-form thoughts about these sorts of things and that they know all of the stuff. And they usually don't. I think we all know that. But that said, you're not going to be able to just go, have you considered this? Because their answer is going to, as often as not, be something very short. Like, of course I've considered that. And that doesn't get you anywhere.
Yep. So, you want to know what number 10 is?
Go ahead.
The labor theory of value is bullshit.
Well, I mean, it is. So
Yeah.
I get the feeling there's more to that, though, because let me tell you, I can't imagine the number of people I've said the labor theory of value is bullshit to, and somehow or another they didn't end up leftists, or end up not leftists. So by all means, explain that too.
Yeah, so basically, we were just going into, like compensation and stuff, and like big billionaires or whatever. And it's, the idea is that the workers should own the company because they created it. So then that kind of goes into like what the workers contributed and like work hours. And I'm like, well, I was basically like, I mean, is the work hours specifically really what's relevant? Because I could like dig a hole like for 50 hours, and then I can fill it in for another 50 hours, and I worked for 100 hours. But what did I create?
That's funny.
And then he's like, oh yeah, you probably have a point there, and I'm like, well, Marx would disagree with me and you.
I mean, he would.
Because labor is what creates value.
So, there is a thing that I think we're sort of glossing over here, but it is in chat at the moment and worth going over. Isolation is also very important. This will not work as well if they can get ideological backup on Facebook, Twitter feed, whatever. 1 versus 1 can work, but getting someone to side against the mob won't work. That's almost always true.
That's why I said this is interpersonal.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Well,
Sorry.
so not specifically outlined, right? So as much as you could be sitting in a circle of friends and having this sort of discussion, I wouldn't do it that way if I was you, right? If you were having a discussion with a leftist, yeah, it had no more than 3 people, and that third person had better be like middle ground or on your side, because as soon as there's 2 of them there to tell you that you're a moron, all of a sudden they'll just feed off each other. It doesn't even matter if they're making points or not. It doesn't even matter if they think they're making points or not. They'll just say dumb shit to you.
Yeah, that is true. Also, it might have helped that he was playing video games.
Well, maybe.
Yeah. But, yeah, so number 11, I got him to consider reading Thomas Sowell.
That's interesting.
Yep.
That seems a little bit more like other things were done in advance, and hey, you could probably know more of this stuff if you just read some Soul, and then I would be over here saying things you've never heard before, because this is pretty standard fare amongst Soul.
Yeah, so basically I presented it as like, like talking about how the right likes to go into, super hyper-specific minutia about points for hours and hours on end. And I said, if you want to, have a laugh about how, ridiculously meticulous it is and, very silly, then, you should probably check out these books by Thomas Sowell and their audiobooks for free on YouTube.
I forget that they're on YouTube.
And he said, yeah, I'm going to check those out. So, yeah.
So, relatively speaking, that might not seem like it's that big of a deal, but how many people, and I mean this to more the audience than you, how many people have said, look, I ended up on the right because I saw a Soul video, because I read basic economics, because some fairly basic interaction with Soul, right? It didn't take much. And by the way, I am not immune to this. There is a reality that not too long before I started a YouTube career, I was burning through Thomas Sowell videos at the cyclic rate and reading through all of his books as fast as I could. So it's not like it's something I was immune to either.
Yep. Also, it tends to help that lefties are, let's just say, very ignorant and uneducated as a general rule. And
yet like to think of themselves as intellectuals, so go read a book seems like a thing that shouldn't have that much of a problem getting traction, and yet it does.
Well, yeah, exactly. That's why free audiobook on YouTube that you can just listen to whenever you want.
Which is probably extra relevant for commies, because let's face it, they don't pay for things. So, so keep that in mind.
Yeah.
Dunning-Kruger indeed. You are correct, Chad.
All right. So that was 11. Geez. Oh, gotta get back in the good light. Okay. Fiat currency is a bad idea.
That's incredible because they all think modern monetary theory is a brilliant idea.
Yeah. So basically, it just a lot of the stuff was like the cost of living. Like, why is the cost of living so expensive? And I basically was talking about how, like, well, I mean, if how a lot of people like to, the rich, very greedy bastards who are terrible and horrible, believe me, and they're all greedy little misers, rubbing their hands together, yada yada, rich bad.
Right.
What they tend to like to do is they like to put their money in banks, to save it for the future. However, that's not, really very viable, you see, because the value of the dollar keeps getting less and less valuable every day. But what adjusts to the, basically inflation is goods and services. So what these horrible, evil rich people do, noticing that their money becomes worth less in the bank, is they invest in things like real estate and become horrible, evil, despicable landlords that also that also are terrible slumlords and doing horrible things and making the cost of living so expensive. It's just so horrible.
That
I can't believe that something as valuable as a home is just unavailable to the average person because of these evil, terrible landlords, and they're doing this because to dodge inflation.
that's particularly good because Marxists everywhere hate landlords. Every Marxist everywhere on
Yes.
the planet hates landlords.
Yep. Yeah, and he and it wasn't like I was just talking about inflation in general, and he's like, man, why is all this happening? And I'm like, well, it really didn't used to happen. And he's like, what happened? It's like, well, we went off the gold standard and went to a fiat currency where our money is fake. Oh yeah, and also it's backed in oil, which disincentivizes us from fighting climate change.
So there's a thing in here that is relevant. You cannot talk economics with someone who doesn't understand basic econ. You don't have to, right? So inflation does incentivize land ownership. It just does because the land is not going to change its value too terribly much all on its little lonesome. If you have a plot of land with a house on it, it's going to keep a relative value to itself over a lengthy period of time unless you in some way improve it or something, right? And so the idea here is that the money gets less valuable with inflation. Everybody knows that's what inflation means. And so that makes rich people buy houses. That creates more landlords. You're not really talking economics here so much as you're telling, you are equating inflation with landlords, which is not a thing that Marxists like. I mean, every single one of them hates landlords. They don't know what inflation is. They don't understand the value of property. They don't have to, right? So
Yep.
they know what inflation is in so much as they know that it makes the money less valuable, right? It's their own description of how to pay off countrywide debt, right? Is you inflate the currency to giant numbers, and then you pay off the debt, and it doesn't matter if the money's worthless because at least you paid off the debt, and then if need be, you deflate the currency later. It's their own argument with how to deal with nationwide debt. So they do have intrinsic understanding of this, and it is their own modern monetary theory that is giving it to them. And so they aren't running around with the right wing's understanding of inflation, but that doesn't really matter, right? So if you tell them that the greedy people don't want their money to be worth less, so they invest in land, that you are talking Marxism to a Marxist. And the Marxist says, oh, yeah, greedy people would want to be landlords because they don't want to do anything. They don't, they're not in this as a group because they're just in it for themselves. And so they don't even care if, the money's being deflated because they have a house now. And they're abusing that house to get money out of the proletariat, really, right? So the point here isn't to convey all right-wing things to the left. This is a failure of all of us of the right. You're never going to go to somebody who thinks modern monetary theory is a good idea and go, well, be advised, it's dumb. There's no way to say that. There's no way to convey this point in its entirety. You're going to have to do it sort of a piece at a time, and you're going to have to do it in a way that they intrinsically understand, which is to say, they very much understand that greedy people have incentives for money or wealth or however it is they want to describe it. And so as soon as you tell them that a greedy rich person is going to go out and do things to increase their wealth or maintain their wealth or any of those things, they intrinsically understand that this is probably true. And the only questions for them are going to be how true that is. But according to Marxists, basically rich people buy land to maintain their richness because that's all that land purchase is there for, unless it's your own home.
Yep. And then I just linked, the U.S. currency being backed in oil to, terrible oil drillers who want to destroy the environment. And
Right.
how, it's really bad that the U.S. government is just stranglehold by, terrible fossil fuels backing their dollar. Isn't that horrible?
And again, you're speaking Marxism to a Marxist, right? Is oil bad? Yep. Therefore, if anything is linked to oil, that thing is also subsequently bad. And so if the leftists everywhere, they have no idea what this term means, but they all know the term petrodollar, right? And so it doesn't matter that they don't know what a petrodollar is. They don't know, or what the petrodollar is. They don't know what anything to do with oil is. None of them even know what an oil well looks like. I get it. There's no possible way to have a real conversation about this. You're not having a real conversation. You are handing over a generalized Marxist idea about why something that Marx likes is bad. And the conflict where they personally find something that Marx likes bad is the kind of thing that is the beginning of an inroad. You're not converting this person to be to the right of dawn in one conversation. No one is doing that. It is never happening, right? That's not a thing.
Yep.
But again, in the world of a lot of people have come to me and said, look, I've got some really lefty family members. What the hell do I do about this? And my answer most of the time is kind of nothing. And so in a substantially better answer than that is this kind of conversation. I'm not saying it's going to work 100% of the time. I'm not going... Jesus Christ. I'm not saying that... you're always going to win, that you're going to walk into this conversation on the far side of it. This person is no longer going to be a leftist. There just are things that will get you inroads and will get you some space to be able to work in. And again, move in to them moving to the right. If they question where they are, or if they question where they stand, it's a win. Exactly, right? As soon as you get someone to have a kind of emotional reaction to Marxism being incorrect, right? So hypocrisy doesn't matter to the left unless one portion of the hypocrisy is emotionally important to them. So they have an overt hate for landlords. So if you can tell a Marxist that Marxism is doing something that promotes landlords, you're going to have to go the long way around, right? You can't just be like, Marxism promotes being more people being landlords, because they're going to say, no, it doesn't. We're looking for communism, or we're seizing the means of production, and that there won't be landlords anymore. But if what you're saying is when you inflate the currency, you're creating more landlords, and they go, well, yeah, that makes sense. Greedy people would do that. Then you go, well, Marx thinks that inflating the currency is a good idea. And at that point, they have two things, one that they love and one that they hate, both in conflict with each other. They are now having a problem that is both rational and emotional for them. Because let's face it, Leftists are irrationally, emotionally attached to Marx. They think he is the prophet, or whomever is downstream from Marx that they all decided was the prophet. But all of them have this in common. They think inflation is a good idea, and they think landlords are terrible.
Yep.
It has to be
All right.
fair, even if it's unfair. Perfect.
Yep. So, another relevant thing as far as convincing lefties. Here's just a very relevant example. Dear right wing, the left very often says, "Well, if you were a real Christian, you would agree with every single political point I have." How convinced are you to be a leftist?
Yeah. It's a fact, right?
They do this. Yeah, they do this all the time. Who's convinced?
No.
Yeah.
So, you can't. If, on the other hand, a leftist, and I have seen the more skilled of them do stuff like this, is, well, Jesus said help take care of the poor. So, when we say that we're building a welfare program, we're following Jesus. And that, while it quite literally is, if you were a good Christian, you would believe that we need a welfare state. It's done in a way that actually sells to religious people. And I have seen various religious people go, that kind of makes sense. At which point I lost my mind and said, Jesus said, do that yourself. So
Yeah.
maybe no with the welfare state.
Yeah. I mean, it works on my dad, and he is a Christian, so
Exactly. So
it's terrible.
if
Yeah,
you're going
so-
to do that sort of thing, by the way, again, if you were a real Marxist, you'd be a capitalist, is a ridiculous premise. You're not going to be able to sell the broad stroke. You do have to go after the individualized thing, right? Which is what all of those examples were up until now, is going after one individual thing and going, look, if you agree with this premise, then this thing, right? And it's not just you have to just show up and become right wing or something like that. Any number of people in this chat have told me if you were running around saying I had to vote Republican, I would walk away from what you're doing right now. And whereas I may or may not vote Republican the next election, if you were telling me the only answer to everything in the world was just go out and vote Republican, I would immediately ignore you. And that's not by accident, right? No one wants to hear whatever it is that you were doing yesterday, just abandon all of it and just come over here and just do whatever I want you to do. No one wants to hear that. Literally zero
No.
people.
No. Yeah, so that was number 12. So Jesus, notifications. All right, number 13. California does dumb shit to protect the Delta smelt.
Well, yes.
Yeah, so a lot of this came into play where, he's talking about California wildfires, and he's like, oh, man, climate change is getting really bad. And then I was, it's like, well, yeah, absolutely. And, a lot of, a lot of human actions clearly were the result of this. And then I said, like, but not all, climate change is CO2. Like pollution, it's all really bad and stuff. But, California didn't really used to have droughts.
I don't know if that's
And
true, but
then I was just going through, just showing him little like history stuff. It's like, yeah, see here, there's no recordings of droughts until this point. And then I just went into they're dumping all their water into the ocean,
and they are.
and it was like, oh, yeah, oh, why are they dumping all their water into the ocean? Oh, well, because they think it will protect the Delta smelt.
I mean, yes.
Yeah.
This is a good road for ending the ridiculous conservation hippie thing, because a lot of that needs to stop.
Yeah. I also got into like the hippie hypocrisy, and I was talking about like, yeah, well, like hippies get these environmentalists, they get angry.
Oh, Well, while we are losing audio here, I will deal with the "that's not true" going on in chat. So, chat, because of the delay,
Yes.
I don't really know where the "that's not true" came from, but go ahead and lay it out, and we will discuss whether or not it's true enough, because that's important.
Yeah. So yeah.
You
No. So. Oh, sorry.
hold on, because there is an important thing in here. You won't get them to vote Republican, but you might get them to vote third party. That is 100% a win. You know,
Yes.
if California is if California votes third party, right, and 55 electoral votes go to the third party, the Republican wins. 100% of the time, the Republican wins. All right. So
Well.
even if what happens is, well, okay, I'll vote for Joe Jorgensen because she's a freaking anarcho communist, Joe Jorgensen is not winning an election. That's good enough.
Well, luckily for me, he's a Bernier Buster, so
Convenient. I didn't design the shirt, chat. Carrying on.
yeah,
All right.
yeah. So, yeah, the whole thing with he so the whole thing of this is where I start hyperbolic, say yeah, just exterminate all the horses, and he's like, oh well, and here's the instinct here where it's like, oh, that's very unreasonable. Well, clearly clearly, hypothetically, because again, he's all into the environmentalism. They'd make competition for other herbivores, and I would say, and then I say like, well, yeah, absolutely. I mean, in the future, we need to make room for the buffalo, right? And then I also said, oh yeah, but by the way, pulls up an article. Environment. What is it? It was like EPA warns that the overpopulation of horses in the southwest is causing deforestation that could expand the Sonoran Desert.
So let me get back to the complaint about California and droughts. California's
Yep.
droughts are based. Okay, so California has a drought El Nino cycle, right? And so for about a handful of years, boatloads of water get dropped on California, and then in the opposing years, it's very dry. And that drought El Nino cycle has been going on since the beginning of time. For the past 20 years or so, California has had a drought every year of the El Nino cycle. That's a management problem. In fact,
Yeah.
it's longer than that. It's about 50 years.
Yeah.
So, anyhow, moving along.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's basically you start with a ridiculous premise, but again, it's under being radical under a socialist premise. So then, he wants to, negotiate it down. So like, oh yeah, we should definitely control the population of horses, but also what this does is, the environmentalists don't seem to really care about the environment.
Again, so for those, I'm going to go ahead and guess that this particular family member is somewhat invested in the environmentalism.
Yes.
So that's a relevant point here, right? If you have some crazy commie who doesn't care about the environment, then none of the environmentalism things are going to matter, right? You're going to need to tailor very similar arguments to whatever it is that they are attached to, because it's their emotional attachment that you need to poke and juxtapose with the generalized things they believe. It's not
Yep.
it's not going to be useful if you, I don't know, go talk to a commie that thinks that the Keystone Pipeline is the worst thing in the world, and that's the only thing they've ever cared about, and then you go talk to them about, I don't know, cities burning down. The answer to them is from them is going to be something like, well, good, cities are a blight upon the planet, so burn them down.
Amazing. Yep. So yeah, that was another thing. Basically, his little emotional things are, I guess, LGBT, police, and environmentalism. So that's how I got the Social Security is bad, because the whole thing is like, oh, it's so terrible that these people are just invading, talking, the government is worried about like what people are doing in their own bedrooms, and then I'm like, well, a lot of these countries are doing these social programs and they're really concerned with how many babies women are popping out, which then gets the emotional reaction like, that's so horrible, why are they doing that? Oh, to keep up the welfare state.
That's a good tie. I wouldn't have thought of that. So,
Yep.
that said, we are coming up to about an hour. How much more you got to go through here?
Okay, so on his end, I have, let me see. I have 7 left.
Whew! I think we're doing a part 2. So,
Okay.
you know what? Shotgun through those, and then
Okay.
we'll close out here, and then catch the rest in a part 2.
Alrighty then. Okay, so number 13. Number 14. SB 145 is bad and allows pedophiles to avoid being registered sex offenders.
God, I love this pedophile thing. This is the greatest gift the left could possibly give us, because you know what? For everybody who's running around and complaining at me, and there are a lot of you, oh, Don, it's not the entire left who are pedophiles. Yes, that's the point. It is the
Yes.
point. There are large swaths of the left who, if they had any idea what the powers that be in the left were doing, would be horrendously disgusted. And SB 145 is a perfect example of that. Like, hey, I thought we put this thing into effect because we knew that pedos were a problem. I thought that, Clinton thought it was a good idea. Maybe, I don't know, I'm just saying.
Yeah.
Well, what do you mean we're not making
He also
pedos
complains
registered
about
pedos?
pedos trying to be LGBT.
Exactly, right?
Yep.
So
Yep.
these things are perfect space to capitalize on, because, let's face it, there is no greater gift than the New Yorker. And well, if you're opposed to the pedo movie, then you're right wing. Like, okay, I accept your terms.
Yep. Okay, so I'm just gonna pump action the shotgun. Okay, so number 15, the media lies constantly about conservatives and conservative movements.
That's interesting. At some point, we'll probably have to discuss how that went down, but carry on.
Yep. Okay. Online fact checkers are fake and dishonest about conservatives. Voter ID laws are not voter suppression of minorities. He thinks they affect the poor negatively, though. So I just said that we should make it easier for people to get voter ID, or for people to get ID.
That's fair. I mean, I would probably actually support that. For those that have never dealt with it, places like California, it's $40 or something like that to get your driver's license. It's ridiculous.
Yep. All right. So that's all 17, and then there's only 9 for my dad.
Fair enough. I think that will have to end up being part 2. I'm trying to avoid the many hour streams, so such is life.
Right. So we want to go through chat.
Definitely, there is. Well, when I say definitely, I mean super chat is spicy. So
Well, there is regular chat.
there is. So, Hagnar the Viking for $5. How is Dawn? If she likes sleeping with a toy, you are going to end up in the void, the pleb. Jesus. Who are you talking to, Dawn? If she's only counting to 2, I'm going to pew pew. Who are you talking to? So this is Pedro. Oh, what is it? Commissar Pedro in chat?
It's Pedro Garcia, and then I go on a account on a specific site that I will not mention, where I'm Commissar Bruno 16.
So, that is trying to avoid TOS. I hope that answers the who we're talking to. So, Dawn, if she's only counting to 2, I'm going pew pew the pleb. Apparently,
Never changed chat.
Apparently, all of my nicknames now will be about me mercilessly slaughtering pedos.
Not the worst nicknames.
You know what I mean? Hanger. By the way, that was also Hanger the Viking. I'm sorry, Hagnar the Viking for $5. Hagnar the Viking for $10. You didn't update the links in the stream. No, I did not. Thank you. I have now done that. Dawn, if she likes to watch cartoons, I'm going to slay you soon, the pleb.
Jesus.
Let's see here. There was one more in the world of Super Chat. Nope, that is the one that I just read. Good. Okay, let's make a brief run through chat. In all seriousness, though, leftist authors and speakers, especially of the Frankfurt School, have been pushing pedo stuff since our grandparents were young. That unironically true.
Weimar.
More laughing that the left are pedophiles? Yes, let's do that. Does
Do
Pedro draw hentai?
No.
There you have it.
And you cannot pay me to do that.
Well, the left is embracing pedos to own the con, so I guess we're winning. Yeah, we probably are. In the world of should I draw things, yes, the left likes art. Basically all of it. So, draw things.
How do you think I'm going to feel when I go to art school and I'm surrounded by communists?
It's near 100% guaranteed. Seriously, what are we talking about? This picture on the screen right now. So, apparently, I did not pause and radio reset enough. And practical application of tactics with Pedro was not good enough either. Quite literally, the things that I talk about on a regular basis being put into application in real life. I don't care about your likes either. I don't care about Pedro's weeb shit. So, relevantly speaking here, for those of you who are like lol farming likes on social media, whether you like it or not, this promotes an idea. I think farming likes is dumb. For those of you who have followed me on social media for any lengthy period of time, you probably know that I think farming likes is dumb. For those of you who have listened to me in the past month go, I hate shilling, we're just going to do this, you know that I think farming likes is dumb, and yet it's helpful.
Wait, why do you hate shilling? Aren't we supposed to be capitalists?
Yes, doesn't mean I like shilling anymore. Let's see here.
What? All right, chat. Does Dawn get the helicopter ride for not liking participation in capitalism?
That's not how that works.
Oh, okay. All right.
By recruited, do you mean just getting people who are already right-wing to like a right-wing post? So, no. Here's how this works. Is you get... The reality of this situation is we need more people who are promoting what it is that we're trying to do here. People who already agree with us are going to be the easiest ones to get to do that. And so if you have somebody who is already right-wing and is already interested in taking the fight to the left however they're doing it, and then goes, oh, well, here's somebody actually trying to do that, then we get one more person signed on, and one more person signed on is one more amount of resource that we can expend in this fight against the people that we're trying to fight. It's not, again, farming likes is dumb. I get it. On the other hand, for the premise of recruiting, what you're trying to do is get more people engaged to attempt to, say, push around House representatives to whatever it is that we're trying to do in any given moment, right?
Also, by the way, every single conservative I have found on, certain places who noticed it and said, I'll check it out, says that they love Don's show.
There is a
every
lot of
single
that.
one. I have never seen any conservative who sees Don's stuff and says, no, not interested. Yeah, none of them. Literally none.
Agitprop for the right is always a great idea to learn. As the right is splintered, we have to adapt to winning tactics. Exactly, right? And that is probably at least as good of an answer as what I was just talking about. Sargon streamed today. He said again he liked talking to you and would want to again, and with Lewis. Well, there you have it, chat. We may have
Oh,
finally
crap.
found a way
Yes.
to get me on a stream with Lewis.
Boomers rise up. Well, that just makes the Sargon thing on our thumbnail even more relevant.
There you go. Why does the pink elf not have a nose? Because anime.
That's how anime works, chat. I don't like the rules, but those are the rules of anime.
If it's weeb-inspired stuff, best not trying to understand it. That way lies only madness. Yes.
That is true.
Chat, you're a hair spicy. What can I say? Oh, Jesus Christ. Hagnar the Viking for $5. Dawn, if she's born on 05, I'm getting my 45, the pleb. Whew. Might finally get Pastor Lewis. Indeed.
Praise Jesus.
Let's see here. Yes, dethroning opinions that have been held for a long time is difficult.
Yeah, how do you think it is dealing with my dad? Holy shit.
That's what that was in reference to. I know some super left-wing people wore a safety pin during the whole I am a safe person thing and laughed off the labor theory of value. Good. That's good ground to work with. You should take a speaking class. Dawn?
me?
Yeah, you. Dawn could save lighter fluid by lighting the next cigarette off the butt. Think efficiency. Yeah, I'm sure I could. I'm just not going to. So, here's how the efficiency of that works. 5 years ago, I bought the brick of lighters from Sam's Club. I'm not even halfway through it.
Nice.
If you tell them about your degrees, they'll listen more, only sometimes. That's one of the things that the left abandons immediately. Yeah,
Yep.
when they think that you're too right-wing.
Exactly.
They have read all the books they need, A Little Red One, and Harry Potter. Oof. They're too young to see the effects of inflation. When you get to mid-20s/early 30s, it's like, whoa, yes. It is much easier to convey this to them if they already understand or they have seen it happen firsthand. But the point of this is, and again, I can't say this enough, the point of this is not to extrapolate every negative of inflation, because 1, you're going to be there for hours. 2, they don't care. 3, they probably think half of those things are positive. And 4, you're wasting your time, which is by far more important than anything to do with them. So
Another relevant... Yeah, sorry.
Go ahead.
Yeah, another relevant thing for lefties is that I would say Don is definitely right about the emotional push, but if you want to get just a lot of conservative ideas through to them, basically just don't touch anything they're emotionally attached to. Like, that's how I got most of my shit through, is by just, like, whenever he goes to an emotional barrier of, like, police, and I'm like, yeah, I get it. Yeah, absolutely, fuck the cops. And then you can just push right-wing things. Like, seriously, I do it with my dad. It's like, oh yeah, I absolutely agree. Orange Man is indeed bad and horrible.
I would extrapolate on that, but I don't think I can tell that story just yet.
Yep.
Only people that lie agree on everything. Ain't that a fact?
That's true.
Out of curiosity, any good tactics for getting through to someone with bad TDS? Well, the question there really is, what are you trying to get through with? Because to the point that Pedro was just making here, if you're dealing with ridiculously bad TDS, then the thing to do is avoid Trump, right?
Yep.
There's not gonna, if Trump saved a kitten from drowning, that kitten would be Hitler and about to go, I don't know, purge Africa or something, because that's how this works. And so if what you're doing is saying, well, look, Trump's really not that bad, what they hear is you're supporting double-headed Hitler. It's ridiculous and it's stupid, but it's true. Climate change. Interesting euphemism for commies throwing Molotovs out of cars driving down I-5. Yes, it is, isn't it?
Precisely. Oh, I can go into on part 2. I'm going to go way through how do you deal with TDS. It is glorious.
Stand by for part 2. 4 to 7 year cycle. Yes, it's a 4 to 7 year cycle. For California's droughts and heavy rains. What happened to Love It or Leave It? I don't even know what that's in reference to.
I have no idea either. That's why you gotta fight in Vietnam or something. I remember something from a book about Vietnam.
Well, you know what? Hold on a minute. Are we talking why aren't the commies dealing with Love It or Leave It? Because they're commies and they think they should conquer everything and everyone should follow them.
Yes.
All right. I think that gets us... Can the California government prevent the feds from removing trees on their land? I'm pretty sure they can't stop the feds. So there were some answers to that given already. The long and short of it is, if the feds really wanted to, they could go do it, but you're going to start having real problems because California is notorious for saying things like, well, you're transporting lumber that is not permitted to be removed, because California has a lot of stupid laws about what you can do in the forest. And, well, the reality is the feds could ignore them if they so chose. The truck drivers could not. The people who were going in to cut down the trees could not, unless they were specifically federal agents, which federal agents do not cut down trees. They hire people to cut down trees. And so you end up with this problem where it's all the third parties that are not government actors that have real problems getting it done. And it's pretty hard to convince someone to go cut down, even if you're offering a couple $1 million, it's pretty difficult to convince them to go cut down trees if California's going to lock them up for 10 years and fine them $1 million. It's self-defeating for them, and so nobody does it. Jesus. Hagnar the Viking. Dawn, if she's swinging from a tree, you would be... if she's swinging from a tree, you would be swinging from a breeze. The pleb. Can you ask Pedro if Pedro's takes art requests? Non-weeb style, hopefully. Do you draw things for other people?
I haven't before, but I could do it.
There you have it. He is in Discord on various social media sites, often in chat. I am fairly certain there are good ways to get a hold of him. Anything to do with horticulture is masked with red tape. That is a fact. Even if on the trees are on federal land, yes. So one of the realities of all of this federalized land that we have all over the place is that local law applies there, which is why you can't get drunk and go four-wheeling. Not even a joke. So, I mean, it's pretty ridiculous, but it is so. So, all right. I think that rounds us out on chat. Spicy chat, I'm not even sure I want to touch you tonight, but let's foolishly do that anyway. Oh my God, Spicy chat is empty. That's it. It's time to move on. Thank you, everybody, for watching. We will, at some point, I imagine whenever we both have time, schedule a round 2 of this. Craig for £5. Dawn, if she's 5 or 6, load the 556, the pleb. Jesus.
Chat, you are brilliant.
I approve of all of the anti-pedo nicknames. That's all I'm saying. So,
It is
moving
very
along.
good writing.
Moving along. Thank you all for watching. Hopefully, despite the various complaints and arguments, this has been helpful for at least some of you, because that's the whole point. Is that these things do actually produce results. I generally have to speak in the abstract. I have thought a lot about whether or not I would sit down and craft individual narratives and that sort of thing. And the reality is I don't know both parties. So there's no way I'm reasonably going to be able to do that. The arguments need to be tailored to people individually. And so this is some of what that looks like. We'll get to some more in part 2 for sure. But with that said, thank you all for watching. Again, I hope that this has helped in some way. And remember, fight the progressives wherever you find them, and fight them like your life depends on it. Because it does.